Today on Next Generation Leaders, we'll speak with Mark Ryan, the CEO of Chesapeake Mission Critical. We'll talk to Mark about his team and how they design, build, and serve the data center industry. And with Mark Ryan. Mark, thanks for coming. We're going to talk a bunch about different concepts of leadership, but start off by telling us about your firm and how you got started and what the company does.
Chesapeake Mission Critical is a company that sells and supports products that support IT, essentially the infrastructure that supports IT. So infrastructure is power products, cooling products, enclosure, security, and monitoring products. It basically gives IT the ability to operate effectively.
So what we talk about in this series of interviews is leadership. So tell us a little bit about, you can talk about the leadership of the company, you can talk about the leadership of your team, the leadership in the marketplace, but what does leadership mean to you as you run a company?
Well, I think leadership is given to someone, and they basically set expectation, define roles of your teammates, and then measure performance and give critical feedback. Probably the most important thing.
Sounds like there's some concepts there around like leading, but then also managing, maybe the measurement piece of it. I know you're an engineer at heart. You know, does that sort of also come from your background, maybe as a guy who measures and engineers things?
Well, I'm a big fan of setting clear expectations.
Okay.
My organization is heavily full of salespeople.
Okay.
So that's easy.
Yeah.
But with some of the softer KPIs, it gets harder when you're trying to set expectation and set measurement and evaluation because it's soft. It's very easy to say, I want you to do X dollars in revenue or gross profit. It's much harder to say, I want to penetrate 10 new accounts this month. But our team is not only salesy, they are also very technical.
Okay.
My guys I want Uber people that can go in and talk about power and cooling or IT and facilities,
yeah, or
mechanical and electrical. So those people are very hard to find. And our assets are very clear. It's our people. I mean, it's just no doubt about it. It's the products we represent, and it's the people we have to support them.
So when you bring somebody into the organization, so what are the attributes or skill sets or individual motivators you look for? What do you look for when you bring people into your company, or maybe even adding them onto a leadership team?
One of the biggest things we really push, and this is going to sound kind of corny, but it's customer comes first, right? But really a sense of urgency. Because mission critical, right? Chesapeake Mission Critical. What is mission critical? It means that data center or that hospital can't go down. And if it goes down, you have a means time to repair that is very short. So when we get the phone call that our UPS or our product is down, we need people to have a sense of urgency and to own it and almost take it personally. I want people that own the problem, take it personally, will do everything in their power to make it right. And that sense of urgency is probably the most important thing there.
Has this market and this marketplace changed a lot over the last few years? How has it innovated, and maybe how have you guys had to keep up with things that have changed in the marketplace? Maybe your style or the way you went to market or how you lead. How have you had to keep up with things?
Well, I mean, because we're in technology.
Yeah.
And you probably hear this a lot,
yeah,
but we're in the middle of change every day,
yeah,
every week. And that change, to stay on touch and on top, I mean, my guys need to be the expert in the data center space. So we're obviously part of professional organizations like 7x24 and IEEE and AFCOM. We're talking to consulting engineers every day, trying to find out the latest new thing, the latest new way to solve that, yeah, mousetrap. But aside from that, it's just constant education, constantly reaching out to the market, and just reading and learning. So
there's sort of a meeting the customer, or meeting their expectations, or understanding technically what they need. Anything that you guys do that it's a little different, maybe on the consultative sale, or maybe how you go to market, or how you engage a prospect or a customer that's different? It seems like all those customers sort of have all that data at their fingertips right now. And then you're kind of at an odd spot there, right? You have to meet their needs, but they already know a lot of the information that 20 years ago the sales guy had to himself. He had that power. So what's different now? in this world?
I'll say what's different with our team. I mean, a differentiator of our company is that we understand IT and facilities. We're the bridge between those two. In the past and even today, there's a real disconnect. The value props are different on both sides of that equation. So we can talk both languages and communicate. Same thing with electrical and mechanical. You've got a lot of companies that are very focused on mechanical, very good at that. The electrical side, we can do also. So we can talk and see the impacts of a high density space and what that does to your mechanical layout. Services and products. This business is all about service, whether it's customer service or whether it's maintenance and maintaining and reliability in the data center side. The business is all about service. So we can sell a product today, but if we're not selling that service and keeping in touch with that customer, I think we're doing ourselves and that customer a disservice.
So you got a challenge of the technology is really important, understanding of technology, meeting a customer expectation. What kind of goes into the cultural parts of the company, right? What's the nature of the culture that makes you successful in that space?
I think it's that sense of urgency
Okay.
we talked about. That sense of urgency and really taking it personal. I mean, when we see our greatest successes in our organization, it's the customers that know us really well. They know what we provide, and they've been with us for a number of years. They've seen us have that sense of urgency to fix a problem and solve a problem quickly for them. And that culture goes from the top down. I think it's important from a leadership perspective to drive that culture down. If the leaders don't have a sense of urgency, and don't have that quality, then the rest of the organization isn't either.
How do you balance that sense of urgency with the customer, the prospect that's on the phone and rattling your cage with maybe something that's out of scope or they're not paying for you? How do you balance off that customer? You know, people say that everybody's been to Disney, so they know what quality is, and you've gotten your X-rays in 30 seconds. It seems like that sense of urgency. They already understand that. How do you balance off that? Gee, I'm not getting paid for this, but yet I got to meet this expectation. How do you guys manage that?
I think generally it's just about being honest with your customer.
Okay.
Right. If we're not going to be able to get to this in a couple of days, we're going to say we're not going to be able to get to this in a couple of days, and we deal with the ramifications of that. Sometimes customers push back if it's an important customer. And they all are, we'll do everything we can to meet their expectation. If they set a clear expectation to us, we're going to do our best. And if we can't meet it, we need to tell them that right away. But that takes the fire out of the situation.
Okay.
Right? If I tell them it's going to be 5 days before that answer comes in, man, it stinks, right? It's about setting that expectation.
It sounds like your guys, your team, your leadership team, your sales team really understands the customer. What do they understand about sort of the growth of the company and if that's important? You know, some folks say, well, we're not going to grow. And I always argue that if you're not growing, you're shrinking, and that's never a good thing. So how do leaders and your team fit into the sort of the growth of the company? What role do they play, if any?
Sure. I think setting the direction, and I think, like I said earlier, service is where it's at, that annuity.
Okay.
Right? So I could sell a box today, but if I'm not getting the annuity of that box throughout the future, then I'm doing ourselves and I'm doing that customer a disservice. So we want to sell the service. We want to promote the service. We want to have everybody in the office talking about the service, because in the end, the service is what's going to keep us in touch with that customer for the life cycle of the product. Next time they buy that product, they're going to say, I know who I'm going to go to for this.
I got you.
I'm going to go to Chesapeake Mission Critical. And we stay in touch with them for that.
So it's growth, sort of meeting your expectation once, finding out how you're going to meet their expectations in the future, staying in touch with them, sort of that reoccurring revenue model that lasts. I think you've mentioned it to me once before. It's a evergreen model, staying green. It's a very diverse marketplace. There's lots of opinions coming in. You have a strong team. How do you balance off, what the right decision is with your team?
Well, my team, I mean, we've gone through a DISC profile with your help, and what's great about my team is it's very well balanced. I've got some dominance, and I've got some compliance, and I've got some, different attributes, different behavioral attributes throughout my team. So I get a lot of different opinions on where to go in direction and where to head. A leader's role is to set the table, set direction. The ideas come from the team, though. Take that input from the team, be able to pick direction from it, but also let the team own it, because then they have buy-in, they have ownership of that direction that you've come up with. Okay. My team is great in giving me a lot of great feedback, and I think one of the greatest cultural aspects of our team is that we have no problem giving critical feedback. It's not taken personally. So if something isn't working, I'm going to hear it really loud and clear, and that's positive. If I can hear it, that's really good. So.
Great. Well, Mark, thanks so much for stopping by and spending some time talking about Chesapeake, talking about your leadership style and where the company's gone and how you're going to continue to be successful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Mark Ryan understands the complexity of his marketplace. He's been able to build a sales and leadership team that is not only technically competent, but they have the sales acumen to make sure they're providing great customer service. We hope you gain something from Mark's conversation in your journey to becoming a next generation leader.